My thing is I'm always looking for travel coming in and out of a thicket, but also paralleling a thicket, and putting myself up against something that they're probably not going to walk through, like just more open woods. It's not that big of a deal if one comes from behind me, because hopefully I'm going to hear them quite a ways away, and I can get a shot before hopefully they smell me. But I'm kind of watching the edge of that cover, or where a couple different cover types come together.
All right, everybody, it's Thursday Q&A time. We just got back from Iowa. We got some updates on that. A lot of people have been asking about Jacob's buck. Did we find Jacob's buck? And the short answer is yes. Jacob, I'll let you take it from here.
He was very much still alive.
Yeah.
So we ended up tracking him. Got a guy to finally come out with the dog. Tracked him about 26 hours after the shot. Went to last blood. Dog found the deer in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. The deer wasn't 150 yards from probably where we stopped looking.
Yep.
And dog was barking, and the guy was on leash. He's like, hey, we got your deer up here. And all of a sudden, that deer took off.
Yep.
So they went following the deer. We ended up making a big loop around, and long story short, they tracked that deer for over half a mile. Mm-hmm. Deer would never stop. Deer would keep running. And long story short, he saw the deer one time at like 200 yards. And he's like, I don't know where you hit him, but the deer's super a lot. Like, we're not recovering this deer. Like, deer's not recoverable. I'm like, the second the deer was alive 26 hours later, I'm like, I don't feel good about this.
That doesn't look good.
Because tracking, like, I've got my dog, Pepper, my German short hair, and we've tracked, she only barks on live deer. Mm-hmm. And the couple deer that we've tracked that was still alive, and she starts barking, I'm like, that's not good.
Yep.
So anyway, but yeah, so we did not recover the deer, unfortunately. Our buddy Zach's been going back out and just looking for buzzards or, vultures 4 or 5 days later. He can't find anything yet. So I don't know if the deer is going to die or not. But what's crazy is posted a photo of the blood on, or at least one of the blood spots on Instagram. And we had a couple guys say, like, oh, that's a dead deer. And I'm like, that's what I thought. I was confident, dude. I mean, I've been on quite a few tracks, but what made me nervous is as we went further and further down the track, 100 yards turned to 200 yards, turned to 500 yards, turned to 700 yards. It's like it just kept waning and waning and waning hope. So, it's unfortunate. But, again, the first 200 yards was the best blood trail I've ever seen from a broadhead.
It's the second best I'd ever seen.
Second best compared to your doe you just shot?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wish you were there for that.
Yeah.
That was a good one. That was a real good one. Yeah, it happens. When we were tracking it, we talked about that. We'll cover this just real quickly, then we're going to get to a couple Q&As. When we started tracking it, at first you're like, oh, this is good. Like everything looked really, really good. But the blood was like, someone commented, and I feel like they kind of hit it on the head. They're like, that blood looks really thick. It's like red, thick blood. And one of the things I always do on a track when you have blood like that is just get a little bit on your finger and just feel it between your fingers. And if it feels real oily, like fat in it, that's usually telling you that you got some kind of low shot going on, like brisket maybe.
Yeah, chest.
And the fat, it wasn't like real oily, so I was like, maybe it's not a brisket shot. I don't know.
The spot that they're talking about, that's where it's coagulated too, because that was 6 hours after the shot, and he bled right there, and by that time it was dried up. But like all the other stuff, I'd feel it, and it's like slick.
Felt good.
I mean,
and then I don't know if we mentioned this or not, but the part when I got worried, we got to where we thought the deer should have been laying.
Yeah, there's a log, giant log.
Well, no, the log was past that. We got to where y'all thought it was laying. Oh, he like went down into this little low spot.
Yeah, that's where we last heard him.
And you last heard him, we're like, oh, he's laying right there. We get there, no deer. Keep tracking. And then, there was that big log. I mean, like, big log. It was hard for me to step up on it, to step over it. And there was a blood spot on top of the log where he jumped over it. And I was like, oh, that's not good. That's not good. That's when I was like, he might have brisket shot this deer. Because I was replaying it in my head. And you were like, yeah, he was a little bit further. And
I'm telling you, those bubbles, bro, like.
That white hair. So what we think happened, at the end of the day, the deer was quartered away, which is a good shot to take. Great shot to take. and the deer was quartered away. You thought he was like low 30s. He ended up being 40. So your arrow's dropping a little bit more. And I think that basically Jacob ended up hitting him right in the armpit, like right behind the shoulder, and low. And so I think what happened is the arrow went in right there, which is where those long white hairs came from. It's kind of like right there in the armpit. Because that was the other thing with the white hairs. I'm like, if you're up in a tree stand and you have white hairs, that's not usually the worst thing because you're shooting at a downward angle. But if you're on the ground and you have white hairs, like you hit the deer low. Like that's the only way it could be there. But it's just a matter of how low did you hit it. But anyways, yeah, it happens, dude. I think it hit in the armpit right there, and I think that you nicked the front of his right lung.
And went out through the front of the chest, maybe. Zach went back out there to look for the arrow, and he said he couldn't find it. He looked in that brush top and everything. He's like, I couldn't find the arrow.
Yeah, that's the other thing. He was texting me about that too, and I was like, you're probably going to need a hard tooth rake to go find that arrow because it probably zipped through and it just went up under the leaves somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, it's probably right in there somewhere, but it's probably up under some leaves and everything. But
some archaeologists will find it.
Yeah, dude, it's an artifact now. It belongs to history.
Gosh. Anyway, but all right, let's get to Q&As. I don't want to sulk anymore. Every time I close my eyes at night, I think of that shot.
I talked to Jacob on the phone yesterday. He's like, man, I just got to get out of this funk. I ain't sleeping good.
Dude, I haven't. Dude, I was like, I thought I was okay, like when I drove back. And that first night when we got back from Iowa, I laid my head down and I was exhausted. I could not fall asleep. It was just that shot kept replaying in my head and replaying in my head and replaying. And then I was having dreams that we found the deer and freaking arrows hanging out of it and all. I did. It's terrible. Terrible. And you know what's bad? I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this on the pod. I'm going to say this on the podcast. Buddy Scott Seals texted us.
Oh.
Scott's been on the podcast before. He's like, hey, did you find the deer? I'm like, no. And I explained to him like we just explained here. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. He's like, that memory will fade once you're dead. And I'm like, dude.
Love Scott.
I'm like, come on. Gosh. Anyway, yeah, heartbreaker.
That's amazing. Yep, it happens. Hopefully you'll redeem yourself here soon.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that.
Maybe not on 160, but
maybe not.
Let's go find on 125. I'll be happy.
Yep. All right. First up. The subject is choosing which buck to shoot. This is from Corey Morin from, help me out here, Massachusetts?
Massachusetts?
I always have a hard time saying that word. Anyways, all right.
Hey gentlemen, my name's Corey. I'm from Massachusetts. Here at work this morning. I listen to your guys' podcast religiously every day. Old videos, new videos. Huge into hunting. Love your guys' show. It's helped out a ton. This is my second year being real big into bow hunting, but opening day I got my first buck ever with the bow. Nice little 7-point, dressed at 138.8. Wasn't too bad, you know. I was very, very happy, very excited. My question for you guys would be though, now that you get two tags out here, two buck tags out here, and now I gotta be picky. You know, I obviously don't want to shoot the next one I see, but that's tough. Maybe I do. You know, what if the rest of the season's dry? How do you make that decision? How do you know? Man, this is the one I should go after. This isn't the one I should go after. I just, any insight would be great. Again, I listen to you guys' show religiously, and it's helped out tremendously. I love you guys. I order from your website all the time. I actually, in fact, ordered the Freezer Queen shirt. I love that shirt. Awesome shirt. And I love you guys. You guys are amazing. Keep doing what you do. I appreciate it, and good luck to the rest of you out there.
All right, Corey, congrats on getting your first archery deer. That's awesome. So I think I know what we're both going to say about this one. What's your take?
So mine goes back to like an interview we just did with Richard Fott. And I think it was actually the call-in episode we did about a little under a month ago, right around a month ago, where he was talking about like if your goal is to kill like a 140 or bigger, you need to kill a whole bunch of 110, 120 inch deer.
Yeah.
Like to get the reps in. And I especially with bow hunting, I really do think getting reps and killing deer, especially if that's what you're going to do, like maybe you don't have much of a gun season or don't have much opportunity to hunt with a firearm, is try to get as much reps as possible. So like if you get a really good opportunity, whether it's a doe, whether it's a small buck, whatever, personally, I think getting those reps is going to help you a ton. You'll be able to execute. Because, like, dude, you go from killing your first buck with a bow, nice 7-point, which, again, Corey, congratulations, to then trying to go kill, like, a 130-inch deer, Massachusetts, maybe a little bit bigger. It's a different ball game. Thankfully, like in Iowa, that 116-inch deer was the biggest one I've ever been drawn back on, okay? And actually had an opportunity at, but it happened so fast, there was no nerves. It was like, saw him, and within 5 seconds, bow was back, settled the pin, release, and I just misjudged range. And never got shook up. If it was one of those situations, I saw that sucker coming from 200 yards away, dude, I would have been a freaking leaf up there in that tree vibrating, okay? Like, that deer would have been pretty safe. But the reason why is I've killed a bunch of really nice deer with my bow. So, Corey, again, my thought is just go have fun with it, dude. Don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Go have some fun. Go shoot, whatever makes you happy. If you do feel like, man, I just do really want to shoot a big deer, go try it. Go do it, okay? But also, I wouldn't pass a bunch of opportunities, especially if you like eating deer meat. The more deer, the better on that aspect of it, especially with beef prices as high as they are now. Dude, I went to the grocery store a couple days ago, and I'm like, thank God I got deer meat. I was looking for some ribeyes, and I was like, dude, it was like $25 a pound.
Yeah.
For a ribeye. I was like, dude,
not even a good looking ribeye.
No, they were terrible looking ribeyes.
Yep.
And I was like,
ain't got no cap on them.
No.
Like,
and I was like, no, I'm good on this. I'm so good. But anyways, that's where I think more shooting opportunities, getting yourself in positions, and our buddy Zach White gave me that exact same advice when we were coming back from Iowa. He's like, dude, you just need to put yourself in more opportunities with that bow. He's like, don't worry about just picking up that gun right when you can. He's like, maybe take that bow out a little bit more and, try to get some more reps. Because I've killed a lot more does with a bow than I've killed bucks with. But it's also because I'm a opportunist with a bow. Like, first thing comes by, like, I've shot spikes with a bow. I've shot, where legal, spotted fawns with a bow, small bucks. I've never killed a really nice deer with a bow. And there's definitely something to just getting more and more reps as you're working, through your bow hunting. I'm not going to say career, but experience level.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. My only thing I would add to that is if you have another buck that walks by you and you want to shoot him, just shoot him. I mean, don't think about it too hard.
If you get jazzed up, if you see that deer coming and that heart rate starts spiking a little bit, your breathing gets a little more rapid,
shoot that joker.
Shoot him.
Yeah, dude.
Have fun with it.
Yeah, have some fun with it. Like the reps, that's a big thing. We were talking about that more even before this Iowa trip, where me and Jacob just got to kill more deer with our bows. Because growing up in the Southeast, it's like always gun season here.
We'll go, especially in Alabama and Mississippi. Those are like two of the longest gun seasons in the country.
Growing up, we didn't bow hunt at all.
Yeah.
Deer season started the fourth Saturday in November or whatever it is.
Yeah. By the way, South Carolina, no lower South Carolina, y'all have a super long gun season. Florida too. I'm just saying, relative to where we're at, most people's deer season does not start until gun season opens.
Dude, the first probably, let me think. I didn't kill my first deer with a bow until I was probably like 17-ish, somewhere in there. And the first probably 6 or 7 deer I shot with my bow, I did not remember aiming at them at all. Like, I killed all of them, thankfully, but after the fact, I was like, man, I don't remember settling the pin. I don't remember doing nothing. And it's like every time I shot one, I was like, okay, I gotta like focus and calm down. And I am just now getting to the point where I'm like real confident doing that. I killed like 20 with a bow or something at this point.
See, my thing is I'm pretty calm. And like, this is a great example. If y'all watch our Kansas hunt video from last year, just came out on YouTube. And there was a comment came through. I don't know if you saw this. But the day we had this probably 140-inch split G3 buck walk by, he was just out of range. And also, we didn't have context for this. He was very close to another property line. And I was like, I don't want him running that property line too. So I wanted a pretty close shot in that circumstance. But that buck, he's at between like 46 and like 50 yards almost the whole time. Then he got a little bit further away. And Caden, our camera guy, who was just on the podcast on Monday, he was like, hey, I'm on him. And like, he's like getting worked up. And I'm like, hey, he's too far. And a comment was like, man, the old Ginger's cameraman was more fired than the Ginger was.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. And I'm like, there's no, I don't know. My thing is, don't get crazy excited until hopefully after the shot, but at least until the deer's in range, because you can psych yourself out. I've done that in the past.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to work on that where like, There's no reason to get all fired up until you've released an arrow or shot the gun or whatever. It's straight business. Where's your best opportunity? Think clearly. Don't have tunnel vision just where the deer is, but look where the deer's going and try to plan your shot opportunities, especially if the deer's kind of angling towards you. Don't be just watching him, like look out in front of him. Okay, where's my openings? If I need to range something 10, 15, 20 yards in front of the deer if he's coming towards us, and try to set yourself up for that position instead of just being locked on the antlers the whole time. And then next you know, he's walked through an opening. You're like, oh crap, and you're just trying to draw the bow back and yank it.
Yeah.
So, but there is something to it. But just going back to it, man, shoot whatever makes you happy. Have fun with it. That's the thing about bow hunting. I'm starting to re-love bow hunting because there was for a few years I've despised it, and a lot of it was just either not being prepared or not taking it nearly as seriously from like a setup position, which we talked about on Monday's episode a little bit as well. Like the setup's crucial for bow hunting. Like, it ain't like gun hunting where I'm like, I'm trying to get a visual, observation hunt with a gun equals shot opportunities in Alabama. Observation hunt with a bow does not necessarily mean that. So it's like, you got to really kind of think different. That's something I've been trying to work on myself, is thinking about that setup to give yourself opportunities. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, if another buck walks in on you this year, like, you just got to think to yourself, like, am I willing to end my season on this deer? If you only get 2 tags, are you willing to end the season on that deer? So like in Iowa, when this is the last thing and then we'll move on. In Iowa, when I passed that buck on like the 3rd or 4th day, we still had, I think, 2 full days of hunting left. And like, I wanted to shoot the deer. Like, he was a nice deer. But I was like, man, I'm just not ready for this hunt to be over yet. And that's why I passed him. So just ask yourself that question. But man, don't overthink it. If it gets you excited, just shoot that thing, man.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right. This one is from Austin Bell from Alabama. Question is, map scouting out of state.
What's happening, guys? Been listening for a while. Congratulations on all the success. Y'all are killing it. Stuck at work, open today. Good view. Can't really complain. But my question is, how do you get confidence map scouting out of state hunts when you can't put boots on the ground beforehand? Because in theory, in my mind, if I could find it on a map, it's probably pretty easy to find on a map. And other people have found it. And, I guess that's just part of the challenge. But just wondering if y'all had any tips on maybe some obscure tips for map scouting. And also maybe like the process of going out of state to hunt. Tags and making sure you're in the right legally and all that. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
All right, Austin, thanks for that question. Good view at work. That's pretty awesome. Assuming you're down on the Gulf somewhere. We'll just say this real quickly. We've covered this on the show before, but when you're going out of state, when it comes to legality and everything, we actually just had another guy write an email question about this. Just call a game warden in that state. Just call a game warden. Like, go look at the website and look at the regs, but I would just call someone who was law enforcement in that state and just ask them a bunch of questions. I'd even ask them about where you're planning on hunting.
No.
See if they got any tips.
Definitely ask them where you're going to hunt, because we ran into this during turkey season. I mentioned this before. Some pieces of public land have different regulations from just like parking.
Yep.
Like some places you might have to have a parking pass.
Yep.
Like if you're going to go hunt a state park or even some refuges, or like there's a bunch of different pieces of public land that maybe we're not used to in the deep south of how it's regulated, but you have to buy like a different type of permit. Like when we've hunted Mississippi, then you're hunting over there in some of those refuges, you have to have like a different refuge license pass in order to have access there. It might be $10-15, but if you don't have that and you get checked by a game warrant, you're getting a ticket. It's a bunch of simple stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, you look on the website for just your hunting license, and a lot of states it's like you have to have a big game license, you have to have a bow license, you might have to have a public land permit. So it kind of like review that. I would call the 1-800 number or whoever it is for the game and fish for that state. Ask them kind of what you need. Tell them what you're doing, what you need license-wise, and then also get referred over to the game warden in the area that you're looking at hunting. And I ask them a couple questions before we talk about scouting, map scouting. I'd ask them specifically, like, maybe how the hunting pressure is in that area. If you're looking for a certain quality of deer, is it something that's, readily available or kind of common in that area, or they're a little harder to find. Deer population, but also, again, confirming some of those permits and everything that you may need in order to hunt legally. Because the worst thing is you go on a trip like this. Thankfully, I haven't ran across this because I try to do my due diligence ahead of time. But the worst thing is, like, you go, you have a great hunt, maybe you kill a deer, then all of a sudden you get checked by a game warden, and you're just missing one small thing. And then you get ticketed and maybe even have your deer confiscated. Maybe have your weapon confiscated. I mean, it's like very simple stuff like that, that, again, if you just do a little bit of homework ahead of time, it'll make the hunt a lot better and get a lot more peace of mind that everything's good. Also realize if you're hunting out of state, you have to have the deer deboned. And if you kill a buck, you gotta bring just the meat back. And if you kill a buck, it's gotta be skull capped or completely Euro mounted in that state. So like when we go to Arkansas, we carry like a propane tank. Like Thomas is like, because we did this last three Arkansas trips. Take a propane tank, a burner, and a pot to do Euro mounts over there. Or if it's big enough, you cape it off the head, you skull cap it, you bring it back and take it to taxidermist and have with a clean skull plate. So stuff like that's like really critical to make sure that you're doing everything right. On the map scouting, I'll say this: if you have confident scouting here at home, and you're from Alabama. Of course, we're from Alabama. If there's a certain habitat type you like to hunt, try to find that in another state. Maybe it's not pines, but it's like, again, the habitat diversity. The big thing down for us is looking for maximum habitat diversity that would set up good for traveling routes along with bedding cover, but also specifically how access sets up. There are some places we've hunted in certain states where there is literally access at two parcels. There's like two places you can really walk in at. And we learned this in Florida too.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Because we're used to in Alabama, like if you pull over the side of the road, it's public land, you can walk into it, okay? In Alabama, like if it's open for a public. There's places we've hunted in other states that there are designated parking areas, and you have to park in those designated parking areas, or you could get a ticket. We didn't get a ticket, but we learned that pretty quickly down there. That like, hey, there's like 5 designated parking areas on this huge piece of public land, and you have to walk from those locations. That's why e-bikes were so popular.
Yeah, well, man, there's a lot of e-bike tracks here.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense now, but. You need to double check all that kind of stuff because access could be huge. Because you may think like, oh man, I could just park right here on the side of the highway and walk in. That's something you ask the game warden, or you look at specifically the regulations for that piece of public land you're going to go to. But the big thing on habitat or for scouting, aerial scouting, is if you like terrain, like saddles, ridge points, benches, thermal hubs, ridgetop hubs, then focus on public land that looks like that, and then again scout from there. Yeah, you're gonna find stuff on the map that looks so good, and once you get there, you'll get in there, and there'll be two cell cameras, a ground blind, and a lock-on staying in a tree. That's fine. You gotta kind of branch off from there. The one thing I've learned from e-scouting is I will roughly have a general idea of everything and drop a few pins, but I'm not spending hours and hours and hours looking at it, because when I get there, I have a limited amount of time. I need to go look at stuff, and I really want to drive around and figure out, like, where are people actually hunting at, and then going from there. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was kind of like the thought process in Iowa, and like when I've gone to Arkansas, it's the same thing. It's like I kind of know what the deer are looking, what they're using, and trying to approach it in a specific way where I'm trying to get away from people.
Yeah. In Iowa, for instance, one thing we did, it's a little different because Jacob had been to this area before, but one thing that we did before we went out there is we dropped pins, just very generic pins of like areas to look at, not like this is the tree to hunt, but just like, hey, we should go check this cornfield, we should go check these saddles up in the hills or whatever. And we looked at seriously looked at probably like 5 different WMAs or whatever, public land parcels. And then when we got there, we went in order of whichever ones we thought would be best. So we checked out what we thought would be the best one first, bounced to the second one, bounced to the third one. And then by the third one, we're like, we don't need to go look at the 4th and 5th one. We're going to hunt the first one. And so I say that just have some backup plans, whether you're hunting like a big giant national forest, maybe a couple different areas of that national forest, or if there's a bunch of smaller pieces of public around, maybe drop pins on each one of those. And then when you get there, you can kind of hash it out on the ground. And then, yeah, like he said, habitat diversity. Like, ultimately, you're just going to have to put boots on the ground when you get there. So I think that's good advice. Don't get bogged down on the map scouting, because I've been bad about that in years past. I'm trying to not do that anymore. And so far, it's been paying off. It's been pretty good. Because if you spend too much time on the map scouting beforehand, you're going to, like, marry yourself to a spot without ever having seen it, and you're going to get real committed to it. And it might cost you 2-3 days on a 5-day trip.
A great example of this. We have the podcast we did with Aaron Warburton, and there's a clip on it talking about like how they scout going into a spot they've never been to before. And he's like, yeah, you might find a place that you can go 3 miles in, 4 miles in one way to the spot. It might be phenomenal. But what happened? He's like, I'd rather find stuff close to the road that we can check and find something better there, because if we spend one whole day hiking in, scouting, maybe hunting around, it's not worth it. And we come out, we're wasting a whole day versus we could spot check, 8 or 10 other spots are within half a mile of the road and be a lot more effective that way. And I think that's huge when you go on an out-of-state trip, because again, you can get some big pieces of public land, especially you start getting up in the Midwest, certain states, and you go walking as far as you want to walk. That's great. But again, if you don't find what you're looking for, you're wasting a lot of valuable time versus spot checking a lot of things. So, when you go out there, find habitat diversity, the terrain you like to hunt, and again, just call around, because you'd be amazed, especially from like a game warden who's over that county, what information they can kind of share with you. Like, you're not asked for specific spots, but just naming off a couple of different tracts of public land. What is the hunter success rate over here when it comes to like quality bucks? How's the herd numbers, the deer numbers? How bad was it hit with EHD? That's a really big thing now, especially if you're going to the Midwest, and so on. But again, just find what you like to look for habitat diversity, go from there, put boots on the ground. And then, if you're planning on a 5-day trip, buckle down for at least the first day and a half of just scouting. Take your bow with you, just go walking. And also, one other quick note, if you're going to go hunt another state and it's a gun hunt, I say gun hunt, it's either a muzzleloader or it's some kind of rifle shotgun hunt. Double check on how much blaze orange you need, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Because not all states, like Alabama, it's 144 inches.
Yep.
Which is like a hat, okay? There's a lot of states, it's a hat and a vest. Some states, just a vest. That's why anytime I travel, especially if we're going on one of those hunts, I got to double check the regs, but I carry a couple extra vests with me, because more than likely, like, first off, I'd rather have more orange than I.
More than likely, I didn't bring home my orange.
Happened in Mississippi last year on a bow hunt.
Yeah.
Which, again, I had extra vests, and Andrew's like, just had his hat. I'm like, dude, we got to have 500 inches of orange. I'm like, here's the vest for you. Wear that with your hat, and you're good. But, like, it's just those simple things like that. It's not worth getting a ticket over. So, just, double check it. Be prepared.
Last thing before we move on from this question. Another thing is, if you're going to a low-pressure state, namely like a state that you have to draw, y'all might hear some dogs in the background here in a minute. If you're going to a low pressure state, so the last 2 years we've hunted Iowa and Kansas, you got to draw those. You can't just go buy a tag and hunt them whenever. Those super obvious spots that everyone might find on a map, just because they're obvious doesn't mean that they're not good. So like in Iowa, and Kansas too, going to the most obvious spots on the map, there might be like a tree stand there or something, but that does not mean the deer aren't coming through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wouldn't overlook that. Now, if you're going to an open state, a lot higher pressure, it might be a little different.
Yeah.
But anyways, so when it comes to packing your gear into the woods, there's really one thing that matters the most to me, and that is being able to have everything very secure and within the footprint of your torso, essentially, which means that I don't want anything sticking out from either side. I don't want anything sticking up above my back. You just want to keep everything really tight, close to the body, so you're not snagging on things when you're walking through the woods. To do that, it's important to have a backpack that has a lot of options for how you can attach things to the pack. This is the Ranger 22 and Ranger 33 from Latitude, two of our favorite packs. And the reason I like these packs is because they've got 2 straps that go across the body of the pack. They've got this panel that goes over those straps, and then you also have straps on the bottom of the backpack as well. What that allows me to do is I can attach my sticks and my platform in a variety of different ways that keeps everything very secure and kind of covered up. Like you can see, I've got my platform right here covered with this panel. Again, that keeps it very tight, and it keeps it close to my body where nothing's hanging out and snagging on briars or vines or anything as I'm trying to make my way to the stand, which keeps me quiet and keeps me from getting aggravated when I'm walking through the woods. So I personally like the Ranger 22 a lot. The Ranger 33 is a slightly bigger pack. It's a really good option, especially as you get into later season. If you want a little bit more room, it's gonna make it easier to carry things like bibs or any extra layers that you're gonna need for cold weather. So you can check both of these out at latitudeoutdoors.com.
Over the years, we've interviewed quite a few successful ground hunters when it comes to bow hunting, and the commonalities between all of them is using the shadows to their advantage. Having overhead cover, back cover, and a little bit of front cover that adds a little bit more shadows to their setup, which allows them to hide a lot easier. That's what we've done today and built this brush blind for Andrew to come in here with his recurve and shoot some does, hopefully early season when these white oaks behind the camera are going to be dropping. One important thing about blending in the shadows is having something that works camo wise in the shadows. And that's one thing I like about this mossy oak woodsman leaf jacket is it's a little bit darker in color, and to me blends in a little bit better to the shadows during early season when you have full leaves on those trees. This is something I'm going to keep in my backpack all season because it's really compact, it's really lightweight, and breathes really well. And I really won't need it until I need it, but it's going to be in my backpack the whole time, which is really nice because of how compact it is. So if you're interested in ground hunting a little bit this year or having extra concealment up in the tree, check out the Mossy Oak Woodsman Leaf Jacket at mossyoak.com. Something every deer hunter gets excited about is when a cold front's pushing through. And one thing that Onyx Hunt just released that I'm really excited about is their new weather feature built into the app. What it allows you to do is be able to scroll throughout all your pins, whether it's in the same state, same county, or across the country, and get accurate weather data directly from that pin location with the closest weather station. This eliminates the need for multiple apps. Also, it has barometric pressure, but one other thing is it has accurate moon data. So for the guys that like hunting moon phase, moon positioning, all that kind of stuff, it shows all that in the app as well. So all you moon phase guys, moon positioning guys, we got you covered. So now Onyx Hunt is your one-stop shop for whitetail hunting, getting all the accurate information that you need, whether it's mapping, weather, looking at trail camera data, and so on. It's a one-stop shop for you. So if you want to try Onyx Hunt this fall, you can use the code SOUTHERN to save on your membership. Know where you stand with Onyx Hunt.
All right, next question.
Hey guys, I just wanted a quick question here. I've been listening to your show for a little over a year. I've been saddle hunting for almost 2. It's my favorite way to hunt. I've yet to shoot a deer out of my saddle so far, but I've been scouting. I hunt on the Texas-Louisiana border. I live about 2 hours away, and I've been scouting since the end of last deer season. I found all kinds of rubs, lines, scrape lines, all the stuff you're looking for. But it seems to be a lot of emphasis on hunting the wind and staying out of the deer's nose with your scent. I'm just curious, how do you suggest you find which way the deer are going to and coming from? If you don't run trail cameras, like I said, I live 2 hours away, so old school cameras isn't feasible. I only get to hunt 2 to 3 days a week most of the time. I'm just curious, what's any suggestions on figuring out how to play that wind if you don't know where they're coming from? I love what you guys do. Hopefully sometime y'all can come to Texas and see us. Keep up the good work, guys.
I'd love to go to Texas sometime. It'd be great, man. Go hunt Texas.
King's Ranch, baby.
So, appreciate the question, man. So your part of Texas, I haven't been to your part of Texas, but I've talked to people about it. So I think I kind of know what it's like as far as the habitat goes. And it reminds me of where we used to hunt when I was in college, where it's just thick. It's just a thick mess.
Yeah, it looks like Alabama.
Yeah, it's just a thick mess, the whole place is. And finding out where the deer are coming and going, you're talking about rubs. You can kind of discern that from rubs, like based on what side of the tree the tree is rubbed on. And if there's a line going through and they're all rubbed on one side, it's like, well, he was probably going that way. Like that's the way he was facing, stops, rubs the tree, keeps going. So there is that. Outside of that, it really comes down to trying to just determine where your bedding and feeding areas are, which gets really hard when you're hunting a 10,000 acre thicket, basically. And you got different wood types in there and everything. But if there are some things that you can draw some distinctions between, like maybe there's a bottom that's got a bunch of oaks in it, or maybe there's some pastures out there, some fields. Maybe there's some spots that are just thicker than others. So the place we're mentioning where we hunted when I was in college, that whole place is thick. But there were certain places that the deer liked to bed more. And it was mostly flat, but there's some rolling hills and things like that on it. And typically where the deer wanted to spend the most time was on those hills when they were thick. So it would be pine plantations, and underneath it would be just nasty, like yopon and privet and palmetto and like all kinds of stuff. And in that place, the deer seemed like they just wanted to be on those side slopes or on the tops of those ridges more often than not. And so when it came to direction of travel in that place, it was tough, but usually it was just a matter of just climbing up in that thick cover and just watching as much of that thick cover as we could see. And we saw some good deer doing that. And we knew some guys that killed some good deer out of there. It was kind of the same thing. It goes back to what we said before, the habitat diversity and just putting yourself around that habitat diversity. A good friend of ours killed a really nice buck out there one year, and he was hunting in an area where I'm talking about this block was thick. The whole thing was thick, but there was different kinds of thickets in the block. So part of it was thinned pines that had an understory, and they were hard to walk through. There's bushes and briars and all kinds of stuff under them. Then you get down into a little low swag, and there's a couple hardwood trees down there, still thick understory. And then on the other side of the hill, it went up, and it was more of like a savanna cut, and it was more grassy, a lot less trees up there. And that's where he ended up killing that buck. And in that situation, I think that he just had to go in there and hunt it a couple times to figure out what the deer were actually doing. Especially if you're not using trail cameras, sometimes that's just what it takes. You just got to get in there and hunt it, and don't be afraid to bump deer. Like, even if you only got 2 or 3 days a week to hunt, if you find a good little area where not many other people are hunting, and you walk in there and you just blow out those deer one Saturday, for instance, and you just spook everything, but you at least see him and you figure out, like, okay, he was laying right here and he ran that way, or those does were feeding right here and they ran that way. That tells you something, and by the time you hunt it the next week, they're probably going to be settled down, as long as they're not getting continuously bumped by someone else.
Yeah, I'd recommend looking for tracks too. I mean, you get down any kind of creek bottoms, softer soil, you're going to find tracks. Tracks are going to tell you the direction of travel, and then looking for trails. I mean, you don't know exactly which way, if you can't see a track, which way they're walking on that trail, but you can at least find those trails. A lot of your trails are going to be paralleling the edge of really like 2 different cover types, where there's 2 different thickets, but maybe it's pines coming up to hardwoods. They're going to have trails running that way. You have perpendicular trails cutting across it, which again is going to tell you a general point of travel. My thing is, I'm always looking for travel coming in and out of a thicket, but also paralleling a thicket, and putting myself up against something that they're probably not going to walk through, like just more open woods. If they do come from that direction, again, I'm also now thinking about this from gun hunting, guys, not bow hunting. Texas gun season, I think, is still, they have a long gun season. I know it's in. It's not that big of a deal if one comes from behind me, because hopefully I'm going to hear them quite a ways away, and I can get a shot before hopefully they smell me. But I'm kind of watching the edge of that cover, or where a couple different cover types come together. This comes into play with Thomas's hunt from yesterday.
Yep.
Where he had 4 different habitat edges all coming together in one spot, and had a chance at probably a really good deer, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But it's just that habitat diversity. And he had to blow, because of the wind direction, he had to blow his wind into some of the cover. But because everything came together there, it's like, yeah, you're blowing out a wedge of it. There's so much more area a deer, a buck or a doe could come through. And it worked out for him. He needed to get a really nice vortex scope so he can see a little bit better. But anyway, it's just one of those things, like the path of travel. If you can just go in, and you have to do 2 things: either look for tracks and trails, run trail cameras, or do observation sits, or any combination of those. And you'll figure it out, especially if you just do observation sits. Like, maybe you don't want to run trail cameras, but if you're doing some scouting, you're finding some sign, setting up where you can kind of watch a little bit more of that area, like not saying wide open, but either climb up higher so you can see down through that thick cover, or getting off the edge of some of that thick cover where you can see down it. And also hunting on a little bit calmer days where you can hear a deer walking from a little ways away. That will tell you a lot. And then, like you said, if you're bumping deer, you kind of figuring out at least where they're spending time, especially midday, and kind of use that, back of your mind, like, hey, I need to probably hunt around this area the next time I come in here, and probably have an opportunity of at least seeing, if not getting a shot at one of those deer.
Yeah, that's a good point about the trails too. I mean, if you can find some trails to set on, and just try to make sure your wind's not blowing straight down that trail, that'll tell you a lot too.
Scrapes too. Scrapes are always, typically, every now and then you find a scrape that doesn't really make sense. But most of the time when you find a scrape, it's an intersection of a bunch of different deer travel, especially if it's a concentration of multiple scrapes in one area. The bucks are laying sign down because there's does coming through that area. It's a focal point that deer are kind of funneling into that area one way or the other. And if you look at that and then start circling out from those scrapes, especially if it's, a concentration of scrapes is what I'm thinking of, you're going to find where deer are dropping into that spot, especially if it's down on the bottom or up on a ridge top. And that could be a phenomenal place to hunt just for getting multiple different paths to travel. Like not necessarily sitting on top of the scrape, but like, hey, I know those scrapes are 80 yards over here to the northeast. I've got a northwest wind, but I can see into some of this cover. That's a pretty good spot to catch deer coming from a bunch of different directions.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and sometimes in an area like that, the way I kind of describe it is like, we were just in Iowa, and in Iowa, it's like there's cover, there's food. There they are, right next to each other. And in places like Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, like really most of the East, actually, like even the Northeast is like this. It's like you take the cover and the food and you just stir it all up together. Like it's all kind of one thing. And that's why we're saying sometimes you just got to get in there and hunt it, because it's not clearly defined. They can eat a lot of the stuff that their bedding is made up of. Like these pine thickets we hunt out here, we'll talk about this in a minute. Once they go up in those pine thickets and the leaves change and they kind of make that shift, they don't have to leave those pine thickets at all in the daylight. The whole understory is made up of stuff that they eat and they bed in. So sometimes you just got to get in there. But
It's like living at the grocery store.
it's like living at the grocery store, dude. Yeah, it's like living at Walmart. You go like sleep in the, I don't know, bed section or whatever. Do they have a bed section at Walmart?
Probably. Super.
You make you a little bed, get you a cot out of the outdoor section, go hang out. You got your groceries. You got cooking supplies. You got everything you need. It's like living in Walmart.
That's a good thing in the South. That's what it's like.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So appreciate all the Q&As, everybody. It's been a wild couple weeks. We haven't done a Q&A in a minute because we've been running around like chickens with our heads cut off. But anyways, y'all keep writing them in. We still got a bunch to get through, actually. Getting here into the good part of the year. And, one great thing about living in the Southeast, we might not have 160s behind every tree, but, we just did that rut hunt in Iowa, early November. For the rest of the year, pretty much, we're going to be hunting rutting deer or close to rutting deer, because we travel around Alabama and the Southeast, and we got some areas that are just starting to get good here in Bama. We're like pre-rut right now in these areas. And it's gonna be good. So speaking of which, Thomas just had a great hunt. Mm-hmm. Went out, shot him a big old doe. It's muzzleloader season here in Alabama. So what happened to Thomas?
Well, he killed. So this is interesting. So he went out and killed a doe a couple days ago. Opening day of muzzleloader season, which we have a weird muzzleloader season. It's only like 5 days long, and it's a Monday through Friday. And when I had talked to Chuck Sykes, our old. I guess he's retired now? Or
No, he moved to a new position.
Moved position. Anyways, he's not our director, wildlife director anymore. He's like, I was trying to get a longer muzzleloader season, or like pitch it to him. He's like, why? He's like, you can hunt with a gun for like 90 days.
That was one of my favorite Jacob Myers moments, because we were sitting in there and we were like sitting in like the conference room or wherever we were. We were talking to him about it, and you laid out this case. Like, y'all know how Jacob is. He's impassioned. I mean, he's laying it out. He's like, these other states, muzzleloader is a great opportunity. It's Monday through Friday. And people who work, they don't get to hunt or whatever. And like Chuck patiently listened. And then he was just like, you can gun hunt for 3 months. He's like, why do you want more muzzleloader season? And you were like, good point.
Good point. Dang. Anyway.
Don't really have a good comeback for that.
So like this hunt's a Monday through Friday. He went out Monday, shot a doe. And when he called me or he texted me like, hey, I shot one. I'm like, cool. Because he needs some deer meat for the hunt kitchen, like a lot of deer meat. So he's just trying to stack bodies. And when he went up to it, he sent me a photo and he's like, look at this. And her tarsals are like dark, which this is early. Like even on that area, that area,
that's a solid 2 weeks early from like when you start getting some deer come in.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
A month out from like peak rut.
Her tarsals were dark. Still had her doe fawn with her, but still just dark. And he killed that deer. And I told him, I was like, later that night, I called him. I was like, hey, you need. And I talked to somebody else. I think it was Michael Pike. Talked to Michael Pike about it. He's like, dude, he needs to get back in there. He's like, there's a mature buck. And that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, if she's in there, she's already working scrapes. She's peeing on her tarsal glands. There is a mature buck or two that knows about that doe.
Yep.
And he's in the area. So I was like, dude, you need to go back in there. Like, maybe it's not that same spot, but like in that vicinity of that area, you need to go hunt again. And he's like, I'm like, I promise. He shot her coming out to a white oak that was dropping acorns still. And they were feeding outside of a pine thicket. And I'm like, you need to go like a drainage or two over, check that out, and look, because I'm like, I'm sure you're gonna find rubs, you're gonna find sign of some bucks on the outskirts of like the edge of like her home range, and like you could kill a buck, like because he's just trying to kill some does right now. And I'm like, kill a doe, but like you have a chance to kill probably a pretty good buck. He said, okay, and we looked up the maps and we were talking about different spots, and I was like, man, there's a spot just a couple drainages down, like you come into it, little hardwood drainage, comes out to the same pine thicket that she came out of, and I'm like, it's also downwind of where that doe was at. And I'm like, that's probably where the buck's at. Like, he's probably in that general area. And he's like, okay. I'm like, let's go in there and just see how it looks. And he goes in there yesterday afternoon, and it's like 2 o'clock, 2:30. He texts me. He's like, dude, this place is crazy. He's like, there's red oaks and white oaks all in this bottom. A couple of them are dropping. Some of them have already been dropping. He's not really looking for feed sign because I was like, "Do you find any feed sign to drop?" He's like, "I wasn't paying attention to it." He's like, "I was just looking at rubs." And he's like, "There's rubs all down into it. It comes down to a little creek drainage." And he said when he climbed up, I dropped him a pin kind of right on the edge of a point where the SMZ met the creek bottom. There's a pine thicket that he's kind of sitting up against, like behind him where the wind's blowing into, but it's kind of blowing up one of the drainages, but that pine thicket runs down the edge of the creek and it runs across from the SMZ from him. Like, it's a big pine thicket, like perfect age, like, you know, those 5-6-year-old pine thickets.
Okay.
And I'm like, sit right there. I was like, dude, this is the spot I would sit with this wind. Like, I'd sit right there where you kind of shoot down that creek bottom, deer comes down, but they drop out of the pine thicket. Yeah, you're blowing out one little section of it, but like you can see a lot and get shot opportunities. He does that. He said when he climbed up, he only got like 2 sticks high because I was like, man, you could sit on the ground. He said, I'll just hit a couple sticks because I don't need to get very high probably anyways. I'm like, yeah, I agree. So he went like 2 sticks high. And he said when he got up, he looked down into the creek bottom. Creek bottom's thick. Looked down at the creek bottom. He saw 2 or 3 real big rubs down there that were fresh. And they were like 75 yards from him. And I'm like, he told me, I'm like, dude, you're going to kill a buck tonight. Like, I'm calling it. Like, you're going to kill a buck. And he's been rattling. He's been calling and stuff. He did that on Monday. And I'm like, dude, I'd just, like, you could rattle, but I'm like, I'd just be grunting. I'd be doing that 10 and grunt sequence. I'd be grunting. Well, it got a little bit later. And it was like 4:30 or something. And I was like, any update? He didn't text me. I was like, okay. Well, it had just gotten dark. 10 minutes after, it was probably, I don't know, 5:15, 5:20. And I get a call from him. And I'm like, what happened? And he's like, well, you were right. Had a buck come in. And I'll kind of explain what happened. He did a rattle sequence. So he did a rattle sequence about 4:30, 4:35, and he's in the timber, did a rattle sequence, and all of a sudden he's heard footsteps, just deer walking, and it's parallel. Like if my back is up to that pine thicket, and he's on like the right hand side of this point, like looking off the point, that deer's coming around the left side of the point, just next to him,
Coming from behind him.
coming kind of from behind him, but he's like walking that edge, and he's like kind of like paralleling the upper edge of that creek, and again, it's all thick pines. And he was walking, and he said that deer wrapped the point and came right towards him. And he's like, dude, he's like, by the time, he's like, I'm looking, he's like, in the canopy cover, he's like, I still had like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of legal light left because it was so thick in there, it was dark. And he's like, I couldn't, I could see with my eyes, I could look up and just like, you could see the shadows and everything, but he's like, I just couldn't see that great. And he's like, I can hear the deer. He's like, the deer's like 25 yards from me. Like, it's on the point right there next to him.
Oh, man.
He's like, it's within bow range. And he's like, he pulled his gun up, pulled the hammer back on his muzzleloader and was looking, could not see the deer. And all of a sudden, the deer, the wind, he said the thermal switched and started sucking down right there. The deer busted. It bounded and like blew twice, got down the creek bottom. Well, he blew back at it. Like this, I'm not gonna do it. Anyways, old doe blow.
Do it. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah, I've been blowed at many times, so I know how to.
I know what it sounds like.
But he said he did that, and the buck actually stopped and turned and walked right back up to him. I say it's a buck. Might have been a doe. The way he was acting, the way the sign was coming, it was parallel where he was seeing some of that sign coming around the point. It came back up, and he's again just had no shot opportunity at it, but just came right into him. But he's like, he rattled. He's like.
Was he like just tickling the antlers, or was he getting it? Like,
I don't think. No, he wasn't. He don't rattle very hard. I'm sure he was just doing like a kind of like a Richard Fott sparring match rattle sequence. But But I was like, dadgum, dude. I'm like, you know how much more meat comes on a buck than a doe? Yeah. Especially a good buck. I'm like, dude. And I'm like, that area he's hunting, I'm like, dude, there's some big deer in there. Like, who knows what that deer looked like? Because he don't have any cameras in that spot. But just had that close encounter. But it was also muggy. Like, we came back to Alabama in like this kind of a warming front.
Yeah.
Like, while we were gone, it got cold as crap here.
Yep.
Freeze warnings. Like, it was below like 30-something degrees for like 40 hours in parts of the state. And then we get back here and it's like highs in like the upper 70s, lows in the 50s. So it's not like great weather. Mm-hmm. And of course, he didn't move till right at last light when that buck was coming through there. But I'm like, he's like, this is dark in those trees. I'm like, that's why that buck's there. That low light.
Yep.
It's imitating darkness a lot quicker. Like, he still had plenty of legal light left.
Yeah.
It's just, he couldn't see him through the scope. And he's got a real, dude, he bought that scope a couple years ago, real cheap, like $75, $80 scope. 3x9, and I'm like, dude, I've got a couple brand new Vortex Crossfire scopes, like a 3x9, 4x12. Like, you could slap one of those bad boys on it, and it's going to have a lot better low light capability than that scope. Because I've looked through that scope before. It better be good in daylight for you to be able to see. And anyway, it just that deer slipped away. But that's one thing I was going to bring up is having a quality optic. If you're rifle hunting, or even binos too, it doesn't really matter. But especially with a rifle scope. You want something that has, where you're paying for. When I'm looking at getting a rifle scope, there's certain features that I kind of like, but the most important feature is how well does it pick up light in low light. The last 5-10 minutes of legal light, especially if you're hunting inside timber, you're in the canopy, you still got 10-15 minutes left of legal light left, but it gets dark a little bit quicker where you can pick up that deer and make it, and not necessarily just make a shot opportunity, but also be able to tell exactly what it is and whether it's something you want to shoot. If you start having really cheap optics, that's one reason why I really like a 30 millimeter tube on my scope instead of a 1 inch tube.
Yep.
It allows more light to come in, especially with a bigger objective lens. But like that can make or break opportunities big time. Mm-hmm. And it just
and you don't have to spend $5,000 on a scope.
You don't have to spend $1,000.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, we've used the Diamondbacks. Vortex. Those are solid.
The new Crossfires are good. I've tested them in low light, and they're like a $200 scope. The Diamondbacks are like high 200s, low 300s. Those are really good. But especially when you get to like the Viper series, or it's now a Viper HD, anywhere between mid 400s and up are really good. Because especially you're getting a 30 millimeter tube on it, which means you have to give different scope rings because a 1 inch tube's smaller. If you just buy like most $200, $250 scopes or less are typically a 1 inch tube. Mm-hmm. Once you start getting a little bit more, they get a little bit bigger tube, a little more light coming through. You have to have bigger rings on them, but it's well worth it, especially if you have a designated rifle or muzzler you're going to be hunting with. I want the most light coming through as possible. So again, you could execute those shots right at first light and the last 5-10 minutes of legal light as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent point. Now, the other thing too is, like we mentioned, across a lot of the Southeast, it's really just now starting to get good for a lot of our southern brethren.
Well, it depends. If you're in Georgia, they're already done with the rut.
Yeah, well, a lot of places in Georgia.
Alabama, Mississippi, parts of Florida, Louisiana, and like southeast Arkansas, eastern Arkansas starting to get good right now.
Yeah, so it's starting to get good. And one thing we've talked about over the summer that we were kind of anticipating, which is just now happening, is what I think is our big shift in where deer hang out and where they move. Like, you hear people talk about in the Midwest, it's like, oh, when the crops get cut or when the velvet comes off, like there's a big shift. And I mean, there is a shift when the velvet comes off here, but I don't think it's nearly as pronounced as it is in other areas. Our big shift happens when the leaves start falling and the woods kind of die back a little bit. So when we went to Iowa, it was still very green down here. And there were some leaves changing and everything, but most of the trees were still holding all their leaves, or a lot of them were still green. Some of them had started to turn into fall colors, but they were still holding. When we got back after that big cold front rolled through, killed off a bunch of those leaves, a bunch of leaves started falling off of trees. When we got back and I was looking around, I was like, dang, like these woods got open real quick. Mm-hmm. To me, that's our big shift. Mm-hmm. And so we saw that on all of our cameras on the public land that we hunt and on our club. At this point, we've had most of our cameras down in the bottoms next to creeks on white oaks that are dropping, or close to red oaks, white oaks and red oaks that are dropping, or maybe on trails that are leading to them. And they've been very active up to this point. We've had awesome hunts all down in those bottoms, all early season. That shift happened, and those cameras dried up. Like, there's still some deer on them, but not nearly the daylight activity. And we have a couple cameras that are higher up on the ridges, closer to pine thickets or in pine thickets, right on the edges. Those cameras just lit up. Those cameras have been pretty dead, and now those just lit up here in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So that shift occurred, and that's what I was talking about when I was saying that they go up in those pine thickets this time of year. And because, before they can lay down in a lot of those oak bottoms, if there's a decent understory, there's good enough cover where they feel very comfortable moving in there. Can't see 30 yards on the ground. Now a lot of those places you can see way further than 30 yards on the ground, and I think they just shifted. So over this coming week, I'm just going to move cameras this week. It's super warm, and just not hunt for a little bit and move cameras.
You can get Tiffany a doe this weekend?
That's what I'm trying. I'm trying to get her to come out.
I gotta go to the range and get Emmy to shoot one of these guns. She ain't still shot them.
Dude, I got some does that are just asking for it. I mean, they're in the same spot every day at the same time in daylight. I'm like, Tiff, you want to come out here? You want to get one of these does? So we'll see. To be determined.
Yeah. No, this is the time of year that I kind of like because it concentrates deer.
Yes.
It just might concentrate them into something that's really hard to hunt because it's a freaking pine thicket. But like where we're at, everything that we hunt for the most part, it's all pines. Like the hardwoods are down the bottom. And especially if you have oaks on top of those ridges in and around those pine thickets or in the pine thickets, like I know you said you had some in the club like that. That's when this is when I feel like those trees get hot.
Yes.
Like if they produce, those deer are going to be on those trees like nobody's business because again, they're isolated in the cover, close to the cover. They're not having to drop elevation, get down some real open stuff to go feed, especially now that there's been a little more pressure, and especially after this weekend. This weekend, by the way, for everybody watching and listening, this is Alabama's gun opener for majority of the state. There's a couple of zones that's already opened maybe like a week or two ago, but a lot of the state opens up this weekend, and that's going to change stuff as well. Especially like the initial push of a bunch of hunters coming out. Everybody's all excited because their deer season finally is starting, in quotes. So there's going to be like a massive. There's going to be a massive shift for a couple of days when everybody's out in the woods. All the leaves are off the tree, or a lot of the leaves are off the trees, where you're going to maybe have one or two good hunts, and all of a sudden you're like, I can't find a deer.
Yep.
They're there. They're just holding tight for a hot second, and then they'll get back to moving again. Big advantage again. If you have the chance to hunt during the week, even just quick hunt in the morning or in the evening, if you're hunting public land or high pressure private land, you could do really, really good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the spot I'm talking about where those does keep coming out, the video where Jacob and I are showing how we use that leaf suit, that woodsman leaf suit from Mossy Oak, that spot is where those does are at. And if you watch that video, you'll see that we're kind of like in a pine thicket. Now, when we filmed it, it was like back when the leaves were all on. It was late summer when we set that spot up. But that's what it is. It's just a pine thicket that meets another stand of pines that aren't too thick underneath, but they've got a little bit of cover underneath them. But they meet right there, and right where they meet, there's 3 big old white oaks that were just loaded this summer that we checked. Put a camera on it, and this whole fall, I haven't had like any deer on it. And then here in the last 2 weeks, and they were dropping. Early season, I hunted at one time, and they were dropping. I mean, it's like marbles spilled all over the ground. And just here in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, that tree has turned on. And I mean, there's bucks on it. There's a mature buck on it this morning. There's a bunch of does coming through there almost every day. Or really, it's been every day for the last 6 days. So I think that's what we're seeing. I think we're seeing that shift. So
You talking about taking Tiffany in there?
no,
I was going to say, that'd be close quarters combat with a rifle. I mean, that's one of those spots. It's like,
we bring in the 30-30, baby. Cow.
I mean,
Bring that little 44.
you come borrow it?
Maybe. We need to go shoot that thing.
I know. I got to go shoot a couple of different things.
Anyways, but yeah, no, that's a good little spot. I might go stick one of them does.
Yeah. No, that'd be good. But yeah, I would just definitely say everybody out there, like, definitely pay attention to that leaves coming off the trees if you're in the deep south and you're starting to get into pre-rut, rut, or even post-rut. Like, again, if you're in Georgia, season goes all the way to like the first week of January. If you still have a tag, just realize, especially if you're in one of those areas, it's got, hardwood bottoms, pines, those leaves are coming off those trees, those deer are getting sucked up in that cover. So, like, you do have to shift. Like, your spots that you were hunting early season, probably are not going to be very productive now because, again, the leaf cover's changed so much. Went from something that had pretty good cover, bucks and deer were comfortable walking through back in October, to now it's like completely changed. And I think if you can focus on that shift, you'll probably get back into seeing a lot more deer. If you've kind of gone where, like, last few hunts, you've been hunting some of those spots you've been hunting a lot of the season, and it's kind of slowing down on activity, try to push a little bit closer to that cover. Maybe not necessarily get in that cover, but again, find where a couple of those different cover types, those thicker pines, come together, like especially on a creek system, and set up, and you'll probably have a really good hunt, seeing a lot more deer in those locations.
Yeah, definitely. Man, I'm happy it's going to be gun season. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I gotta go to a range.
Me too.
I gotta, not necessarily guns are in, but there's a couple guns I want to hunt with this year that I'm very eager to hunt with, and I gotta.
Let's go later this week.
Maybe
shoot at the club.
I got some deer to kill. I gotta help Thomas stack some does. Hopefully, I'm going on a little doe streak. I mean, if a nice buck comes by, I'll shoot that too. But I'm just looking for some does later this week and this weekend.
Yep.
So I'm trying to help supplement the hunt kitchen. It needs about 15 deer for this year. And again, I told a buddy that. He's like, 15 deer? I'm like, dude, a doe down here is 80 pounds. I mean, you can get one bigger for sure, but like your average doe walking around, 2.5-year-old doe, she's 80 pounds maybe.
Dude,
I'm like, it ain't that much meat.
That doe I shot 2 weeks ago,
Yeah,
right before we left for Iowa, she was a bigger doe too.
Yeah.
And I just processed her at the house because we were almost out of deer meat. And so I was like, I'm just going to do some simple ground and roast and everything. So did all that. And I took the ground meat and I ground the heart and liver into it and mixed it all up. Dude, it's good. And Piper, that's like her favorite thing to eat, my 2-year-old. It is her favorite thing. She'll kind of eat some like regular burger meat. She kind of got out of it. Dude, with that, she asks for it like every day.
So Thomas,
and we were eating through it. I was like, dude, we're going to eat this dough before Christmas.
So that's why you
we got to go stack them.
Listen, I know. That's why Thomas was saying, so Thomas saved the heart and liver, especially the liver from that doe he shot. And he was going to ask you about maybe he ought to try to prepare it.
So I don't
I know.
like liver that much. I'm not a big liver person, especially a deer liver. I've eaten them, but a deer liver's like pretty sweet. Like it's kind of different. And there's 2 ways that I've liked it. One is I've made it one time in like liver and onions that was good, and not like liver and onions like how you think. Like it's a dish that you cook all day long. Like it's slow cooking, and it was really good. And the other way is grinding it into burger meat. You put it in tacos, you put it in whatever. It's really good that way too. Meat looks good. Like it's got a real dark. I mean, it's good. I promise. It's like, but those are the only 2 ways I like to eat it. I don't really like eating it. The heart, I like eating the heart too. I used to just cook up the heart just in a skillet and just eat it. Like a steak.
It.
Yeah, slice it.
Not
the whole
like
heart.
A psycho. Freaking psycho eating like an apple.
No, I've done that and I like it. A lot of people really like the heart. It's like people either love it or hate it. What I like to do with the heart these days is I just slice it thin and just throw it in my fajita meat. Make fajitas with it. Like mix it in with other deer meat. And it's good. It's good for you. It's good stuff. But yeah, the liver, I don't eat the liver by itself.
Oh, we ought to talk about, since we're talking about eating weird things, I ought to talk about eating deer tongues.
Oh yeah, I've eaten a deer tongue.
Yeah, it was like the first year or so I knew you.
So the first time I ever cooked a deer tongue, it was great. It was very good. The very first time I cooked it. And then I cooked it
Just like, a little lingua.
Like
some street tacos.
I cooked it a couple times after that, and I never could quite get it right. And the thing about a white-tailed deer tongue,
they're itty-bitty, dude.
There ain't much there, bro.
Dude, it's like, I remember I came over to your house, and we were still in college, and went over to your house, and we were doing something. I forgot why I was over there. And you're like, oh, dude, I'm cooking up some deer tongue. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then you showed them to me. He's like, oh, I've saved like 4 or 5. Then them suckers are like, I swear, 3 or 4 inches long, little slivers. And you were like parboiling them for like hours. And then you like take the skin off. So it like exposes me. Like you don't have like the
taste buds
and stuff on there. a little
texture.
chewy. And I mean, we ate it. It was fine. But it was like, dude, it was so much work for like such a tiny little bit of meat.
Juice ain't worth the squeeze.
No,
man.
like elk tongue maybe. I mean, I'm sure that sucker's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that deer tongue, man, that was tiny little things. So
Yeah, I've done the same thing. I've tried so many things with deer meat. I've cooked the ribs before. If you kill like a big buck,
Mm-hmm.
you can cook a rack of ribs on that deer, and it's pretty good. But usually with the ribs, I just fillet the meat right off of them.
Yeah.
And you really don't have to. You'll see sometimes people will when they're getting the meat off the ribs, which a lot of people don't do this, and you're missing out. But they'll go between each rib and like cut the meat out between each rib. You really don't have to do that. You can actually start at the back of the ribs and cut with the bone like you're filleting a fish, like filleting meat off of a fish, and just ride that bone and peel it off in one big sheet. And you'd be surprised at how much extra ground meat you get from that. So I just throw that in my grind pile. Same thing with the neck. Like on a doe, it's a little bit hit or miss with the neck, but you still, like that doe that I shot the other day, I got probably, like 2 or 3 pounds off her neck.
really, she was big, but most time on a doe, I mean, it ain't nothing but skin and bones on the neck. It's like that's the most depressing thing. I like shooting does, but like when it comes to just like meat yield, I mean, there's like barely little. Like it's most time you're just dulling a knife trying to cut the meat off the neck of a doe. Whereas like you kill a nice buck and it's like, dude, it's a hunk of freaking meat, dude. It's like it is substantial. The people out there, if they process their own deer and they don't get their deer meat or from the neck. And I'm not saying bone-in neck roast, but like this, you can take it and get off in one big sheet. I always go down the back of the neck, from the base of the head down to almost the shoulder blades after I get the back straps out, and just peel it off one whole side and comes off. And dude, it is so good. It's one of my favorite cuts. Like it's so good, especially from like a good you kill like a legit 4.5-year-old buck or bigger, and you kill them like rut. Dude, that neck roast is legit.
It's giant.
Yeah, it's substantial.
My Kansas buck, I mean, it was like 12 pounds or so. It was huge.
Yeah, it's such a good piece. But anyway, yeah. So anyway, I just had to break the whole tongue thing because we're talking about organs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, again, we still got a ton. I mean, it's just now starting to get good in Alabama. We'll go all the way to February 10th here. But if any of you guys are, hunting and you're kind of wrapping up your season, the next couple weeks, look at trying to find other opportunities, especially if you're just trying to get more deer meat. There's a ton of opportunities for some fairly cheap tags to go and get, whether it's a couple bucks, couple does, whatever. Because that's one thing we love about deer hunting. It's like, man, if you truly wanted to travel like a crazy person, you could start deer hunting in August and you go all the way through the end of February. Arkansas goes to February 28th, which is insane. But tons of opportunity there. But other than that, appreciate everybody watching the podcast. Thank y'all for listening. We'll catch you back here on the next episode from the Southern Outdoorsman. And remember, guys, y'all stay Southern.